It's time for a deep dive on University of Portland basketball.
Alec with the dribble, takes it all the way down the lane, lays it up and in. Count the deuce. Alec Wintering, 5 in a row.
The inside story on the Pilots.
And here's Wintering, break down the lane. In the corner, long jumper, 4-3 on the way. Good, Jason Todd.
This is Portland Pilots basketball with Coach Eric Reveneau. Tonight's show is brought to you on 910 ESPN Portland by employee-owned Bi-Mart, by your local Les Schwab Tire Center, the Oregon College Savings Plan, by Buffalo Wild Wings, U.S. Bank, by Safeway, and by Play Smart Health Screenings from Providence Heart and Vascular Institute. Now here's your host, the voice of the Pilots, Bill Johnson.
This is such a great time of the year. If you are any kind of a sports fan whatsoever, the Major League Baseball season just came to an end. I'm sure there are a lot of folks around the country that are happy to see a small market team knock off a team from the number one market in the entire country, KC over New York, well into college football, well into the National Football League, but now the frosting on the cake, college basketball, is right around the corner. We thank you so much for joining us. And Coach Rev, I think I say this every year that we do this, and this is our third year with Entercom Radio in Portland. This is the listener's show. It's not our show. It belongs to the listeners. So give a phone call at any time, whether Coach Rev is right in the middle of a comment or if we're in a break. Please give us a call at 542-0910, or you can tweet, Ask Coach Rev, because this is your show. So this is your chance just to have a really good talk with the head coach, talk about Pilot basketball, talk about the season down the road. If you want to talk about conference play, whatever you'd like to talk about, this is your show. So we invite you to join us right here every Monday night. And with rare exceptions, Coach Rev will be with us every Monday night. Before we talk about the players, before we talk about the team overall, Coach, let's talk about a couple of brand new additions. You have a new assistant coach, and you also we have a new director of basketball operations who has a very familiar name.
Yeah, we'll start with him. The director of operations I'm very excited to get Kramer Knutson back on the bluff. I'm pretty sure he's one of a few of the winningest players in school history. No other Pilot has won more games than Kramer. I'm pretty confident. So you archive folks out there want to find a 3-year span better than that, have at it. Jason Bro has yet to come up with a group that did better than Kramer's group, and he's doing a fabulous job. Really, gets what the program's about, gets what the university's about, connects with people really well, really diligent, has a nice understanding of how we like to operate and the culture of the program. And I felt that was important when Coach Wolf, losing Coach Wolf after 9 years. He was my first hire when I got here, and went off to Cushing Academy and a prep school job that he's excited about. And he's got, we could play them in an exhibition game, the team he's got now. They're very good. And but when he left and had the opportunity to get Kramer after 3 years of playing internationally, get him back, and we're excited to have him. And also with the other assistant, Mitch Johnson, was able to hire him, fill Herb Brown's spot. Quite a swing and experience there, to point the obvious out. But Mitch, I know very well, recruited him from the Seattle area to Stanford. I coached him his freshman year at Stanford. Was a tremendous guard, captain, leader at Stanford. Just a really bright young basketball mind. Relates well with the players, good with the guards, great on the floor. Just a really nice boost of energy and asking the right questions and wondering about this and that, and just does a really nice job. It's been great to have him around. So the staff is doing real well. Rounded out, of course, with Eric Jackson and Colin Pfaff and Tim Grass on video, and Rich Bennett in the training room, and Brad Scott in the weight room. I feel like we got a very good staff and poised for a great year.
As we look at Mitch Johnson, very familiar with his father's name.
Yeah, his dad was a great Celtic, and Eric Jackson was back in Milwaukee for his dad getting inducted to the Hall of Fame, and Mitch's dad is one of the great players from Milwaukee and Seattle. So, he's got a very strong basketball history.
First game coming up this weekend. It'll be a non-counter of a game, but let's go back. You've actually already played. It was a scrimmage, really, but you had officials, so it was a regular basketball game. It wasn't a stop-and-start scrimmage. Talk about how that went with Oregon State this last weekend.
It was great. In fact, we went down the night early with all the new players on the team and a new director of operation to go down and, really kind of not necessary, but we had an early morning start on Saturday in the practice court, and we went down the night before and went through the routine a little bit, and that was good. And then we got up and we practiced, and the format was interesting. We actually did half court sets against each other, 2 possessions at a time, alternating. And then we did what we call half court, full court, where you take a possession, then you take it made or missed into transition, and teams can press and do stuff. And then we played a 40-minute scrimmage, and then we did 4 different late game situations. So 50 seconds on the clock, down 3 with the ball, 4 seconds on the sideline, need down 1, need a bucket. And we just did these situations, but the scrimmage and everything was good. So we did get a good game in there, but we sort of bookend it with some different activities and stuff. And they've got a nice team, athletic. My biggest takeaway from it was we're pretty much where I thought we were. We're on the right track. Guys are doing well, but we still got to keep getting better.
Yeah. Want to remind you again, this is your show. Our listeners, you can call in with questions, comments about the program, 503-542-0910. It is Sports 910, so it's 0910. Or on Twitter, simply ask Coach Rev. Any comments, any questions at all. Write your own. That is your motto for this year. Explain that, Coach.
Write your own. So this summer, I got our captains, Bryce Presley and Alec Wintering, together, and we talked a little bit, and then we got together with the full marketing staff and met with them, and we were looking for a slogan or something that would sort of hit home and resonate with them as players. That would also be something that they could use in any sort of marketing campaign they put together for the season. And Alec actually said, "I like write your own," And at first it seemed sort of individualistic, and we talked about it, and they said, no, for him it was he wants to, write his own path, to have not put limits on himself, to achieve his goals, to be his own man. And then we started talking about it as a team, and it's to be our own program. So we're not trying to be Gonzaga, we're not trying to be Oregon, we're not trying to be Oregon State, we're not trying to be anybody else. We're trying to be University of Portland. We're trying to write our own and make this season special. And then as this team, we don't want to be compared to last year's team. It will be, and it will be, whatever. But if they want to be a special team that stands out in and of itself, that leaves its own legacy and is true to its own identity. So this whole concept, we sort of flushed out a little bit, and it really took a life of its own, and the guys really embraced it.
One of the things that all coaches are really concerned about, and that is that everybody buys into the program, that you're a team. So there's more to it than X's and O's, than practices. Talk a little bit about some of the activities that you had in the fall, even back to the summer months, Coach, about how you can just bring this team together, especially when you consider that the Pilots lost a half a dozen seniors last year. You only have 2 seniors on the roster this year. What were some of the activities that you conducted this year?
Well, we've run the gamut. One of the big ones was we worked with a group out of Boston called The Program. It's a former military members that run team training through physical adversity. University of Oregon works with them a lot. Notre Dame works with them. Michigan work across the country with teams. We actually did a retreat with them over the summer. We've worked with them a couple of times. And you do all these physical exercises where they assign leaders to different groups, and you have these exercises, and you learn how to be a good leader, how to be a good follower at times, how to pick your spots. The other fun one we did last fall over fall break a couple weeks ago is we had a group, a gentleman from Comedy Sports Portland, and we did 3 hours of improv, and that was a fun activity. So all kinds of good stuff going on.
We're going to step away for just a moment. Want to remind you, give a call in, Coach Rev. This is the Coaches Show for a Monday night on Entercom Radio Sports 910. The number, 503-542-0910, or simply on, if you want to give a tweet out, simply ask Coach Rev. This is your show. Come on back. Join us. We'll be right back in the studio here in a moment on Sports 910.
You're listening to Portland Pilots Basketball with Coach Eric Reveneau on 910 ESPN Portland. Here again is Bill Johnson.
And right now we have our first caller of the night, first caller of the year, Pedro in Southern California. Hello, Pedro.
And Coach Eric Rev, how are you guys?
Good. How you doing? Thanks for calling.
Okay, we just lost Pedro, but we're going to find him. I mean, really, when you're talking about 6 million plus, it's pretty easy to lose somebody in Southern California. So we do have a question on email for you, Coach Rev. Are you looking forward to, and I've already heard a lot about it, been out for a couple of your practices, you really want to play a little bit of a different game, more up-tempo for the Purple?
Yeah, put it simply, I think, we try to adjust to our personnel every year, and this year is different than starting with, we don't have Thomas Vandermars in the post, we don't have Voldy, even Kevin Bailey and Riley Barker, and we've lost a lot. So it's really an easy opportunity, frankly, to take a look at what we're doing and try to do everything better. Last year we were 4th in the conference in offense, 6th in defense. And so I'd like to improve in everything. I think in order to do that, we've got to play a little different to match this group. But I think I really think that means defending and getting out and going, and get out and run a little bit. We can shoot the ball pretty well, a little more balanced than that in terms of shooting it from the perimeter. Different guys. Alec's been playing well. Alec and Bryce, I should say, first of all, you talk about the team building right before the break and everything. Mm-hmm. They've been tremendous as captains. Their growth as captains and leaders and taking ownership of this. The only thing that has slowed them down from really taking more of an ownership is me not shutting up. I think if I would be quiet, sometimes they would step right up. And we've had those conversations. Like, I've apologized. I said I should have let you handle that. You seem to have a good grasp of it, and I should have let you go with that, Alec. My bad. So they've been great, and offensively they really stabilize us and set the tone and can get out and run.
Exhibition game coming up on Saturday, and that will be at the Child Center. It's at 2 o'clock. It's a matinee ball game, and it's against Concordia from Irvine, California, not Concordia of Portland. And your friendship with Concordia's head coach goes back quite a few years. This is becoming an annual tradition.
Yeah, no, I told told Coach Kenny Ammon, who was a teammate of mine in college, I told him we'd keep playing them until they beat us, and if they ever beat us, then we'd have to not play them. But they took us to overtime one year. Very well coached, very good team. They play 4-out motion a lot. They attack. They really deny you and pressure you and can take you out of your actions. So it's always a good early in the year test for us.
All right, now let's go to Pedro in Southern California. Our first caller of the brand new year. Pedro, how are you?
All right, Mr. Bill Johnson, Coach Eric Rev. How are you guys?
We're good.
Glad to hear you. Hey, with the Dodgers out of the playoffs and the Lakers 0-3, Portland basketball is looking real good right now.
Yeah, sorry about that. Your Lakers, they'll get it going, I guess. But I feel for you. You have to pay more attention to the Pilots. Yeah,
that's it. I've seen 5 women's soccer games up there and down here, and maybe 3 Dodger games this year, so you know who comes first with us now. But I was up there last month, Coach Rev, watching you crack the whip and run everybody through the motions, and what I really was impressed with is how everybody's real verbal and communicating out there on defense, and that's a great indicator of things to come. What's your defensive philosophy going to be this time around with this team?
That's great you notice that, because sometimes there's a coaching adage that if you should be able to tell how a practice is going when you walk in a gym by listening to it and not having to see it. you walk into a high-level practice and you can hear good basketball. You can hear communication. You can hear the energy. You can hear talking on both ends. It's not just the coaches yelling. And that's great that you notice that. And we're working on it still. Be consistent. Do that in adversity. Defensively, with the 30-second shot clock, maybe we'll talk about rule changes a little bit later even, but with the 30-second shot clock this year, there is an advantage to changing defenses a little bit, keep teams off guard. At this point of the season, a coach's job is to put our players in position to be successful, and defensively, that might mean doing some different things, whether it's trapping, switching everything, switching some screens, mixing some things up a little bit. We might try to do that, but your bread and butter, your main go-to needs to be some really good tough-nosed man-to-man. So we have a philosophy that defense needs to be really a visceral activity. I used the word visceral yesterday in practice. The other day in practice, I made sure they knew that had to refer to the heart and sinews of the body, and it was a visceral, not a cerebral activity. And so they've been getting after it.
No, I get it. Me, I believe that great defense turns into great offense. So I want to wish you guys the best. We'll be talking and yelling for you during the season, and great luck to you. And Bill, always good to hear you.
Thank you very much, Pedro. You and I have much in common. Go Dodgers. Go Pilots.
Hey, we'll be ready in March.
Absolutely.
All right,
absolutely.
Coach.
Thanks so much for the call, Pedro.
All right, fellas. We'll see you. Bye-bye.
Welcome again to the Coach's Show. University of Portland head coach for the men's program, Eric Revenot, now starting his 10th year, and it will all start at 2 o'clock. It's an exhibition game, but really, Coach, when the ball goes up in the air for that jump ball, there's no such thing as an exhibition game. It's a game you want to win. It's a game where you want to see your players progress individually and team-wise.
I really do believe that. I think that this time of year in particular, there really is a sense of anxiety, frankly, for getting better. We're in a race against time here. You're allowed 30 practices prior to your first contest. So we'll have 30 practices before we play Oregon Institute of Technology a week from Friday. And so we've got to get better and make the most of every day. And Concordia Irvine counts as one of those opportunities where we've got to see see where we are and keep getting better and figure out and constantly readjust course and make sure we're working and prioritizing the right things. Our November schedule is tough. It's balanced in the sense of who we're playing and some tough opponents and whatnot, but the travel and some calendar things make it a little bit challenging, but it's a good test for us because our conference is so tough. So, like you say, it all starts Saturday.
Do want to remind you that the Pilots men basketball season tickets, they are on sale now, and they start at only, and this is just a great bargain, $126 for 18 home games at the Child Center. Individual game tickets, they start at only $10 for adults, $5 for the kids, and you can get your tickets now through all Ticketmaster outlets, or simply give a call to the Pilot Box office, 503, of course, the area code, 943-7525. That's 943-7525. And then for package and group discount offers, be sure and visit portlandpilots.com. Much more coming on the Coach's Show, the very first show of the brand new year. Coach Rev back for his 10th year. We're going to be back in just a few moments on Sports 910.
You're listening to Portland Pilots Basketball with Coach Eric Revenot on 910 ESPN Portland. Here's your host, Bill Johnson.
Thank you very much. Welcome back to our first show of the year with Coach Rev, now in his 10th year, and we quickly go to Larry in Hood River. Larry?
Hey, Bill, how you doing?
Oh, we're doing great. How are you?
Oh, I'm excited, Rev, for this year's team. I think you guys got a lot of guards and great outside wings that be a little different than what we've had in the past. We've always been so good inside. I think this year will be a lot of fun watching these guys get up and down the court.
Yeah, no, I think so. You look back, having Kramer around has sort of brought back memories of the Nick Ravio, T.J. Campbell, Jared Stoll, those teams that, the winningest period we've had and the winningest period in school history, really the 3 years of 20-plus wins, and was the basketball was marked by really good inside balance. And I would say we were balanced last year, inside, outside. I think people, think of we were dominant inside. and maybe in this day and age, relative to everybody else, we were more inside dominant than most. But, the thing I'm excited about this team offensively is how the ball's moving. The ball died a few times last year. We got stagnant at times. The ball movement, the people movement, the player movement, and just the passing and everything. Things are a little bit faster. Really unselfish group, sharing the basketball, and so we're telling them that that we really want to try to score early in the clock, try to put some pressure on the defense. And then really play unselfish basketball. We need someone to replace Kevin Bailey's free throws. Alec can do that. Bryce needs to do that more. Kevin Bailey was very good at getting to the free throw line for us. Was ranked nationally, getting to the line, getting fouled. Shot a very good percentage from three, and then was making really good decisions late in his career on either shooting an open three or attacking and getting to the line. And we need to get some of that and put pressure, especially with the way they're going to call it this year, a little bit tighter with some rule changes.
So,
Larry, another question?
Yeah, I just got on, but I wasn't sure if you guys talked about the newcomer Jarrell from the JC transfer from Florida. But boy, watching the scrimmage, he stands out as that he can really play.
Yeah, no, he. Since you came to that scrimmage and he didn't miss a three in that scrimmage, it's safe to say he hasn't shot it better than that day. That was the best day he shot it. And I'm out of sort of not. I don't want to go get into stats for the Oregon State scrimmage, but the thing I like from Jarrell right now is his sharing the basketball. He had 5 assists and 1 turnover on Saturday against Oregon State. Didn't quite shoot it as well as what you saw, obviously, but he'll make plays from that 4 spot for others, and Gabe Taylor's still doing the same. He'll hit that high post jumper. He'll shoot his 3 when his feet are set, and spread the floor for us a little bit. But also both those guys at the 4 position can attack the defense, and we just need to make sure that we're versatile and strong also, and can defend on the perimeter.
Hey, Coach, you have a great season, and we'll be there every step of the way.
I know you will be, and I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, have a good night.
All right, thanks so much, Larry. The Coach's Show, Coach Eric Reveneau, our guest every Monday evening. Let's go ahead and talk about the newcomers in the program and a young man who I know you would like to see. You like to see everybody develop, but it may take a little bit of time, no matter how good you are in the high school ranks. College ball is a whole different level. A local name, really well known. Talk a little bit about Jazz Johnson, Lake Oswego.
Jazz is doing great. He's come in and worked hard with Coach Scott, improved his fitness. He competes every day. He's got to go against Alec Wintering, and that's no small task. And Alec's playing really well right now, and Jazz is doing very well. He scores the ball at a high level. He has a knack for scoring the ball. He's a point guard, but really maybe a 2 guard in some respect. But he can defend. He has to defend Alec, and does a good job of that every day. And so he's doing a nice job. He's also a very diligent student. All the freshmen are academically acclimating themselves, if you will, and that's an adjustment, but he's doing very well there as well, so we're proud of him.
Let's just go down the roster, Coach, and just have you make some comments about the newcomers so people will be hopefully a little bit familiar with them by Saturday afternoon, and certainly for the first county game coming up. Again, 18 home games at the Child Center. Ought to be a fun team this year, a team that's really going to run the ball as much as possible. Probably more scoring from the outside this year, maybe a little bit of a change there, but I think it's going to be a pretty exciting team. So let's just take a look at the roster. Xavier Hallinan is one of the newcomers in your program.
Yeah, we're excited to have Xavier from Central Catholic on the team this year. Xavier has been tremendous. He's been kind of a glue guy in practice. He's filling in different spots. He's got a great feel for the game. And what I like about Xavier, although he doesn't always feel like I enjoy this part of him, because I'll jump on a little bit, but he's got a little swagger to his game. He's not afraid to make a mistake. He sticks his nose in there. He competes, and he's going to be a nice addition for our team.
Rashad Jackson, kind of, it reminds you of Corey Tilkey, both from Bakersfield.
Yeah, he's He does in some regard in terms of athleticism and some highlight dunks. He's a little thicker than Corey. Corey, by the way, to give an update, is still running track and trying to make the Olympics and doing great. I don't have my track details, so I'll have to bring some more specifics. But he's training, and we see him around the Child Center. Graduated, and he's working hard at that, and it looks great. He's fun to have around a little bit. He's not wearing us out in the office, but he is around the Child Center some. But Rashad is a really explosive scorer, shoot the ball. He's someone that defensively might be able to really help us on the perimeter, and because of his size, athleticism, and his desire to compete defensively, he could be a nice addition. He's got to learn some things and get comfortable. He basically said he didn't know how much he didn't know, after the first couple of weeks.
Colin Russell is a newcomer. He's going to be one of the big guys on the front line this year, Folsom, California.
We had a meeting late this afternoon. As I was leaving, we were just talking about Colin and how hard he plays and how sometimes his technique right now isn't perfect, but he plays so hard, and he's a good athlete, and he's got good skill level, that he does something incorrectly technique-wise, you don't really notice. He does a nice job. It's a lesson for every player. If you just play hard, a lot of things you can work things out and figure out the better technique later. But he's doing a very good job for us.
Before we go to break, let's sneak in one more player, Ray Barino, another of the frontline members.
Yeah, no, Ray, big kid from New Mexico, originally from Mexico, New Mexico Junior College. Started off at Tulane his first year. In his words, he didn't like the Princeton offense they were running with him at the high post there. And he says that wasn't what they quite told him in recruiting. So he went to junior college, and we recruited him, and he's great. What I love about him and all our post guys is they're very unselfish. And where you see that in a post player is they get an offensive board, they're looking to kick it out for threes, or they're setting screens. They want to set a screen. They're maybe risking a foul setting a screen. They're willing. We didn't get a lot of fouls screening last year. We weren't, and it just sort of needs to become contagious where you're trying to help make somebody else better, and Ray sure does that.
So the preseason poll, what did the coaches say about the purple and white for this coming year? We'll talk about that a whole lot more. 30 minutes down, 30 minutes to go on our very first show of the new year. Coach Rev on the Coach's Show right here on Sports 910. Back in just a moment.
You're listening to Portland Pilots Basketball with Coach Eric Reveneau on 910 ESPN Portland. Here again is Bill Johnson.
Welcome back to our Monday evening show, first one of the year for the coaches. They all got together in Southern California just a little while ago. Bryce Presley, I understand, joined you as the player representative for University of Portland. Talk about where the Pilots are picked to finish, but maybe even more importantly, how important is this to you, really?
It's not that important, because I know how I vote, and I don't know some of the other teams' newcomers. We're not allowed to vote for our own team, but we vote for the other teams, right. And we sort of, I ask the assistant coaches, I look at who they've got, and I make my best guess, and so it's not that important because I know how the voting goes, and we were picked fifth, which, to be honest, is interesting. Given how much we lost, I thought that was a good sign of respect for Alec Wintering and Bryce Presley, and I think just for the respect that the program's on a solid footing, and they're intrigued about some of our new guys, and there's a little bit of a wait and see attitude probably with all the teams sort of. And the thing about it, the thing that also makes it not that important is we know how in a few months from now we'll be talking about how the difference between fourth and ninth or fourth and eighth is not that much, and so it's really cliche as it is. It's so true. I don't know what we were picked last year, and it's where you finish that really matters.
Preseason pick, Alec Wintering.
Yeah, all conference, Alec Wintering, and well deserved. And he's playing well, and I think he can still keep getting better. I think there's some things he competes. He's quick. I think he's still improving, and it's great. He's showing some more improved leadership, doing a really nice job leading both on the court and off the court. He showed well against the Oregon State athletes. There's a high level athlete there, and I was curious because we said, we say this team is more athletic than some teams we've had, and Oregon State's pretty athletic. They were banged up on Saturday. They've got some guys out, but Alec looked pretty good against some athletes. So that's a nice reassuring aspect to our team right now.
Last year, a half a dozen seniors on the roster, Rev. This year, only 2. We've already talked about one, Bryce Presley, Max Livingston, who came into the program just last year. I think everybody pretty much figures out that Alec Wintering will get off to a good start, and he's going to be a tremendous player. Bryce Presley, I think for that young man from the Sacramento area, it's really important for him to get off to a really good start this year as a senior.
Definitely. I think, he's really integral for us because he does so much. He's so versatile. He can be a backup point guard. He can have him play the point and Jazz at the 2. If you can do different lineup things. He's so versatile. I always end up putting him at different spots when I haven't really practiced him there that much. He's constantly trying to improve his rebounding. He's a good rebounder, but he knows that's something that he needs to stay consciously focused on, as well as getting to the free throw line. But he's shooting the ball well, good shooter, good creating off the dribble right now, and so he's definitely key for us.
So let's get away from the players for just a moment and talk about the impact on your program, not only as a facility, but quite frankly, it's a great recruiting tool, is the Beauchamp Wellness Center.
Yeah, no, we're just calling it the Bow over at the Bow, but it's an unbelievable student recreation center. And first and foremost, it's a great community aspect addition to the University of Portland. The buzz in there, the students hanging out, everything's just great. And then in the back of the thing, tucked away, is a really gorgeous practice court that we have, and the students can use it when we're not there. It's got some technology and stuff. The Memphis Grizzlies are practicing there Wednesday and Friday of this week. Clippers are coming in later, and it's just and there's some teams coming in there, and it's just a nice facility to have back there, and the students use it, and there's a rock climbing wall, there's all this cardio machines that I haven't tested as much as I should yet, and so it's great.
And the Pilot House opened last week, and hopefully down the road, the Pilot House will be hosting our Monday evening talk show with you, Coach Rev.
Have you seen the Pilot House yet?
I have not been in. I've seen the recreation center, the Bow. It's wonderful.
So to me, it looks like it is wonderful. They're both very nice facilities, and the Pilot House looks like a nice pub downtown in the Pearl. It's just fabulously decorated. It looks really good. To our players, Rashad Jackson said it's like Buffalo Wild Wings, but nicer. So that's high praise. That's high praise from nothing against our great sponsor, the Buffalo Wild Wings, but he says it looks nicer. It's really nice place, and so for people to meet before games, have lunch before our 2:00 game on Saturday. Great place to go and check out.
One coaching change in the conference, and we'll talk more about the conference as we progress throughout the year, but the coaching change, Lamont Smith coming in, who played his college basketball at the University of San Diego, and he takes over for Bill Greer. And, Coach, it's always been my thought, even all the years that I've been associated with the University of Portland, never had a chance to shake hands or visit with Bill Greer, but he always appeared to me to be an absolutely first-class gentleman and a huge plus. And I think just as a person and as a coach, he's going to be missed in the conference.
He will be. The thing about the conference and why I feel so comfortable in the WCC at University of Portland is both our university and other member universities attract good people. There's some good guys in our conference. Our coaches, not every conference is like that. And Bill Greer is a great guy. Consider him a friend. It's now actually nice. He's at Oklahoma State as an assistant coach.
Yes.
Hearing about their locker room from him is interesting. But talking to him now is because we've always before when we talked or text during the season we always sort of didn't talk shop too much, but now I can talk a little more shop with him. It's been good from that regard. But he and his family are doing well. It's tough that way.
That's a major change, San Diego to Stillwater.
Yeah, from a basketball coach's perspective, those changes aren't so hard. From a family's perspective, it's a little bit harder. I hear his daughters are doing great, though. So he says it's a really neat community. He says he's amazed at how nice people are in Stillwater.
It's the Midwest.
Yeah,
it is
nice.
The heartland.
Yep.
Coach Eric Reveneau on the Coaches Show, our first show of the year. Thank you so much for joining us. 503-542-0910 or a tweet at Ask Coach Rev. We're going to step back for just a moment, but we will be back with just about more 20 minutes of programming for this Monday evening on Sports 910.
You're listening to Portland Pilots Basketball with Coach Eric Reveneau on 910 ESPN Portland. Here's your host, Bill Johnson.
And we welcome you back to our show for this Monday evening as we are now in the month of November, and that means basketball well underway and starting. We have an exhibition game coming up, Concordia Irvine. It'll be a matinee tip, 2 o'clock, Child Center, great place to watch a basketball game. Every year that I walk in the building, Coach, just a comment from you really quickly. Building opened, I believe, in 1984, and yet you walk in that building, you take a look at it, and you think maybe they just opened it yesterday. Beautiful facility.
No, they do a great job taking care of it. In the off-season, every off-season I've been at University of Portland, there's always some improvements. They're always trying to upgrade this and clean up that, and just do a great job with it. And they think I'm just being nice when I say I don't think the building will ever need to be replaced. There's some things that you can always get improved and upgrade, but the footprint of the building is fantastic. And like you say, it is a great place to watch a college basketball game. And frankly, you mentioned the Beauchamp Rec Center and the Pilot House. The Child Center is a special venue also, and we look forward to getting the students out this year and getting that place rocking a little bit, and should be fun.
By the way, speaking of the Child Center, speaking of basketball, on the feminine side, the Lady Pilots will open up their season exhibition game against Warner Pacific Friday evening of this week, 7 o'clock. Now, the Pilots men's team, of course, as we mentioned, Saturday against Concordia Irvine, tip at 2 p.m., and the regular season opener following on Friday, November the 13th, 7 o'clock against Oregon Tech. Some people might say, why have you scheduled the Owls from Southern Oregon? But I know you've got a great answer.
My answer is Danny Miles, the coach, their head coach. I've never met him. I was reading about him last year, and I don't know how much I knew about what he's done down there over the last 50-plus years. I'll have to read up next week. I read it last year. It might have been the Oregonian or somewhere else online. And he's got over 1,000 wins at Oregon Institute of Technology. He's just a legend. I thought, boy, it'd be great. He's retiring at the end of this season. It'd be great to get him up and have him at the University of Portland. I know I've even talked to some high school coaches that they know him from somewhere, and they're going to come out to the game and just get him up here to play. And it's an honor to play someone like that. And basketball, in college basketball, Division I gets the bulk of attention. But I'm constantly telling players looking to play college basketball, there's a lot of neat places to play basketball and have tremendous experiences. And I think OIT has been one of those.
Let's talk about a couple of the new rules for college basketball this year. You've already mentioned the 30-second clock, but go into maybe a little more detail, if you will, Rev, about the impact that will have on the game. And then the other one is freedom of movement.
Yeah, so the rules committee, there's a basketball rules committee that makes changes of the rules every year. Every other year, they don't do it every year. This year they made 25 rule changes, and there's some significant ones, and the officials are going to try to adjust to all that, which is always interesting. But the first one, the big ones, and you mentioned the 30-second shot clock. They're trying to speed up the game and try to make it a little faster. Along with that, the freedom of movement. By that I mean if I'm cutting, a defender can't hold me up, can't use their hands to slow me up, and to really reinforce calling some of the existing rules. When someone's dribbling the ball, if you put two hands on them, it's an automatic foul. They did it a couple years ago and then got away from it last year, but really sort of tighten up the ability to move. Our game's more physical than the NBA, and they protect shooters there, and they really do a good job. And so that's something they're going to take to the college game. I think the 30-second shot clock, will give an advantage to a team that wants to change defenses like we do sometimes. We're not big on really what they say in coach, junking it up with a lot of different defenses, but we'll switch, play zone on the end line, and mix it up a little bit depending on what's working. And but there's a little incentive to do that because it gets the team back on their heels, and they don't have as much time to figure it out. So you just change it. All of a sudden, it takes them 5-8 seconds to figure it out, and then lo and behold, they're out of time. The other interesting one, that came up in the scrimmage, I will not be able to call timeouts. Not just me, all coaches. It's not a special rule for me, but all coaches won't be allowed to call timeout during live ball play. So, your guy's in trouble. I won't be able to yell timeout. I'll yell timeout. One of my players will have to call it.
Okay.
So I can only call timeout during dead balls, and they also took away the 5-second rule. So if I'm dribbling the basketball and closely guarded for 5 seconds, it's okay. So as long as you're bouncing it, you can keep going. When you've got a good point guard, that's good. It makes it easier. And so there's a few rule changes like that. Here's one you'll like. If there's a media timeout coming up at 16 and we call timeout at 16:10, then that becomes a media timeout. They don't then have a media timeout in 10 seconds.
Good.
Yes.
I
knew you'd like that.
I do.
So
I do, Coach.
Keep the game moving.
Yes.
Because they don't want to disrupt your flow. When you get going, they don't want to keep chopping it up like that.
Let me go back to the 30-second clock. In favor of it or no?
I'm in favor of it. I kind of am in favor of standardizing the rules. And someone said, why are games different? But by standardizing the rules, I mean sort of making the same rules as the NBA and FIBA with the 24-second shot clock and some of the other rules just to standardize the game as it becomes so international. But I don't feel strongly I could see another argument. But I do think 35 it was time to bring it down to 30. I like trying to prepare my team for different scenarios and not micromanaging it during the game. I know it may appear otherwise, but I'm just trying to take advantage of what the rules are. And if you have to coach your team to a shorter time clock and run less stuff and just react and teach them how to play, I'm all for that. And so 30 seconds is a good place for us to go to next and see where it goes, and maybe someday even bring it down shorter.
How are the players adjusting to that in all the scrimmages and the practices that you have?
I don't think they've noticed because we're shooting it too quick to even get to 30. Yeah, I don't think I've heard. I don't know if our horn works right now. I haven't checked. I don't know if they've plugged it in yet. We'll set it at 25 sometimes. We'll set it at different things. I'm being facetious, of course. We've had, it comes a little bit quicker and you notice it, but it's not dramatic. It's a nice sort of middle ground adjustment for everybody, and not going to be too significant, I don't think.
Well, we've finished up with 5 segments. We have 1 to go, and one of the questions that we're going to ask the coach about, actually just some comments, really not a question. You never, ever want to forget the student athletes who have been at the University of Portland. We lost a half a dozen seniors, so I'm going to ask you to update us on the 6 who have played their last game.
I need my international.
That's okay. I've got the names here, Coach. Just
right. Do you have a map? Do you have a map for me?
We'll take our final break. We'll come back with more of the Coach's Show in just a moment. Give a call in to Coach Rev, 503-542-0910. Back in just a moment on Sports 910.
You're listening to Portland Pilots Basketball with Coach Eric Reveneau on 910 ESPN Portland. Here's your host, Bill Johnson.
Welcome back to our final segment for our first show of the year with Coach Rev, now in his 10th year as the #1 pilot at the University of Portland. Before we talk about the half a dozen seniors from last year and where they are now and what they're doing, Coach, give us a quick update on recruiting. I've always said a coach's day never stops, or never starts, and it never ends. It's just continuous 24/7.
Yeah, it really does. Luckily, the assistants do the heavy lifting on that. And it was an interesting summer. We had one with Alec Monson, who went on a Mormon mission. We signed a letter of intent for a couple years ago, and as a wing player, a big wing, he's been down in Ecuador on his Mormon mission. He's coming next fall, 2016. Gets back early from his mission. He's completing his mission early in the calendar of next year, and so he'll be back getting his basketball legs under him. And we actually play against his brother, who plays at UC Davis this year. So we'll see the Monson family down there. And then we also have Joseph Smoyer, local big kid that we're very excited about. 6'10", athletic big man that's gonna come in, and we're Actually, I'm not sure I was supposed to mention that name, so they might have to self-report the thing because we haven't got his letter of intent yet. So, Bill, you set me up. You got me. I was relaxed. You got me here.
And usually it takes me till the last show of the year to.
So what will happen with that is I didn't say that. No, I said it. So what happens with that, to be honest, is I go in and self-report and say I mentioned something. Anyway, so whoops. But yeah, so that we've done that recruiting-wise. And then we're working hard on the 2017 class, and we're trying to look to fill those spots and keep pushing.
Okay, let's very quickly run down the list of the seniors that we had a year ago. But first of all, let's go to James Vega, who has a question and or a comment for you.
Hey, Coach. Hey, Bill. How's it going?
Good, James.
What's up, James?
Just calling to plug Portside with the Pilots next Tuesday night, November 10th, and make sure the viewers know how much they can see you and your face on the show next week. Mic'd up at practice, at the Time Warner event, trying to make sure people knew about the show and how much they could see you next week.
Wow, that's very nice of you. I don't know. Someone said I got a face that's great for radio.
There.
So I don't know if I want to see that, because there's some people out there that might be imagining me very quite handsome with a full head of hair. A lot of hair product.
Give people what they want, Coach.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. I'm sorry about you. No, James, you do an amazing job with that show, and if you can have a show with so much of me in it and still make it flow a little bit, you're a master in there. It's those late nights in the Child Center figuring that stuff out. Where can our viewers see that?
Tuesday, November 10th, Comcast Sportsnet. If you can watch the Blazers, then you can watch Portside with the Pilots. 9 p.m. is the first show, and then there'll be several re-airs. We'll have all the info on our website and on our YouTube. But Tuesday, November 10th, and they can hear and see plenty of you, Coach.
Very good. Very good, I think. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, guys.
All right. Thank you very much, James. All right, quickly, let's run down the list, Coach, because we've promised this. Thomas Van der Mars, where's the big guy?
Greece. He ended up, ironically, signing with the first team that Nemanja Mitrovic signed with, or one of the teams that Nem has played with, and now just moved from second division to first division, so he's got a good job in Greece.
Voldy Giroun.
Voldy is been close to a couple deals. He's in the Ukraine still, and he's got some options, and he's going to pull the trigger here shortly. But I hopefully have something to report on where he's landed this basketball season very soon.
A young man who unfortunately had a really disappointing senior year, and really.
Feels like a game show. Riley Barker, Yugoslavia.
There you go. You got it. Riley Barker,
it's like a quiz. I got to name him before he comes. No, it was I would cut you off joking, but no, it was a disappointing senior year. And I think he's got a bright future basketball wise. I really still do. I think he had a good summer. He's athletic, and he's leading the league in block shots. And I can't quite name the other leaders of that league right now, but he's doing well.
There are certain plays that will always stand out in your mind, and I don't know how long this one will stay in my mind, but I will never forget the play, the steal, the race to the hoop, and the dunk at UNLV last year for Riley Barker.
What's funny about that, you mentioned that one. The other one that I remember
What's that?
Is his dunk when we couldn't score against Kentucky in the Moda Center, his freshman year. We could not score.
Right.
We were scoreless. We couldn't score, and he came in and had a dunk, and he could make plays like that. He could make plays like that.
Kevin Bailey.
Kevin Bailey is in Poland, and I've got the name of his team, and I won't even try pronouncing it. Poharma Shotgar Gadinski in Poland. So if I got anywhere close to that, that's pure luck.
Bobby Sharp.
And about Kevin, I should say, Kevin's exciting. What I tell all these guys, Kevin is really has a bright future in front of him, and I think he's going to be a tremendous pro. He's sort of matured and really working hard, and he's excited about the next stage of his journey, so we're really happy for him.
How about Bobby Sharpshooter? Bobby
Sharpshooter is last I heard, he is tearing up the men's leagues up in Napa. He's one of those guys that could try to go play and could go play somewhere if he wanted to, and it's just about finding the right spot if he wants to do that. Jared Stoll was a little bit the same way. It's you're not a big guy, you're not it's sort of hard as a shooter like that. You got some locals, but he could if he wanted to. I think he's still up in Northern California.
And speaking of local, David Carr from Central Catholic.
David Carr is out there working on his golf game in the evening and working for medical sales company during the day. And I hear he's killing it with the sales. And he's got an app that finds the cheap golf at night, and late he gets on the courses late. So if he tries to play you for money, I think he's a shark these days.
Now, this is kind of a personal question, but our executive producer, Jason Bro, who will not be in studio with us this year, is coaching his niece's team. So I have to ask you, did you not imprint on his mind that coaching can be hazardous to your mental health?
Not coaching, not coaching youth. It's good for the soul. It's good for everyone's soul. Just coach, just love them up and have fun.
Our executive producer is Jason Bro, the Associate Athletic Director at the University of Portland. Our in-studio producer, Jose Navarez, with our team this year. And our board operator has been Jesse Osmond, back for his third year. Pilots, coming up Saturday, 2 o'clock tip against Irvine. It'll be Concordia coming into town. Come on out, watch a new-look Pilot. Ought to be a whole lot of fun this year. Coach Rev, thank you. Show number 1. We're done.
Thank you very much. It was great.
Thanks for all the calls. We'll be back next Monday evening. Start time, 7 o'clock, right here on Intercom Radio. I'm Bill Johnson. Thanks for joining us. Have a great evening and have a great rest of the week.
This has been Portland Pilots Basketball with Coach Eric Reveneau. Tonight's show was brought to you by employee-owned Bimart, by your local Les Schwab Tire Center, the Oregon College Savings Plan, by Buffalo Wild Wings, U.S. Bank, by Safeway, and by Play Smart Health Screenings from Providence Heart and Vascular Institute. Join us for University of Portland basketball all season long on the home of the Pilots, 910 ESPN Portland. ESPN Portland. ESPN Portland. ESPN Portland. ESPN Portland. ESPN Portland.